If you grew up in the early 2000s, you didn't just see this logo, you felt it in your chest. We're talking NBA Street, NFL Street, Def Jam Vendetta, the list goes on, but after years of silence, the king finally returned for one last ride. This is SSX. This wasn't just another sequel, it was a massive, gritty reboot that took the arcade DNA of the originals and strapped it into a jet engine. It didn't care about polite racing, it cared about surviving the world's most dangerous peaks, and yes, you can literally go on almost every single mountain peak in the world, and hit tricks that would literally defy the laws of physics. Today on the D-pad, we're heading back to the 360 era once again. We're breaking down the game that brought the big energy into the modern age, the evolution of RiderNet, and why this remains the most ambitious snowboarding game ever made. In 2012, EA didn't just give us a few tracks and mountains, they gave us the entire planet. Using NASA topographical data, the developers mapped out entire mountain ranges. We're talking 153 drops across 9 of the most iconic mountain ranges in the entire world. But they didn't just make it big, they made it lethal. The game introduced the deadly descents, each range had a unique hazard. Thin air in the Himalayas required oxygen tanks, the darkness of Kilimanjaro required headlamps, and the massive gaps in the Alps required the wingsuit. It added a layer of survival horror to a snowboarding game that we have never seen before. Literally one of the most extreme games we've probably had growing up. And the gameplay was a perfect bridge. It kept the tricky meter and the iconic Uber tricks, but the physics felt heavier and more satisfying than ever before from the older PS2 games. And then they also introduced this really cool rewind mechanic. If you bailed or flew off a cliff or you just didn't like how you were going to go off a certain jump, you could literally wind back time, but it would cost you your score and precious time. It was a high stakes gambling system in a way. Now think, do you rewind and lose your points, or do you take the wipeout and hope you can recover? It was a constant battle, and it turned every run into a frantic balancing act between survival and style. One of the newest additions that the 2012 reboot took was how it handled the roster of characters. This wasn't just a pick your favorite skin type of situation. EA brought back the icons Mac, Elise, Kiori, but they aged them up a bit and they actually had a job to do. They were a team of specialists on a global mission, and for the first time, your character choice actually mattered who you're racing or trick strategy. This game kind of introduced like an RPG progression system. Every run earned you credits and every trick earned you XP. You weren't just playing for high scores, you were grinding to level up your stats so you could survive 50-foot falls and control your speed when racing down a mountain. And then there was also the gear. You had to manage your inventory like a pro. Do you buy the board that gives you a 15% trick bonus, or do you add extra speed for those massive jumps? It turned the game into like a BR where you had to loot up your racer. And the equipment that you looted, whether it was to make you faster or to make you handle tricks better, it all mattered on what sort of race you were playing at that time. It was really the difference between a gold medal and then a deadly descent wipeout. This is an iconic loop that we see in gaming even in today. Earn credits, buy better gear, tackle harder peaks. It's what kept people playing so long after the credits rolled out. Now we can't talk about this game and not mention the noise. The 2012 soundtrack was a heavy-hitting mix of dubstep, indie rock, and hip-hop, featuring tracks from The Glitch Mob, Pretty Lights, Foster the People, Skrillex. But the real genius was the dynamic remixing. This game actually analyzed the music in real time, and when you took a massive air, the track would filter out, leaving only the sound of the wind, and when you hit a signature Uber trick or activated the tricky mode, the bass would drop back in with a vengeance. It made the music feel like it was reacting to you, turning every run into a custom mixed music video. It's a small detail, but it's exactly why the big energy felt so alive in this reboot. And again, the soundtrack was absolutely killer for this game. We also have to talk about RiderNet, which was pretty much where SSX truly lived. Before live service was a buzzword, this game perfected it. There was no traditional online lobby where you waited for your friends or random players. Instead, the whole game was kind of just a living leaderboard. You could join global events with over 50,000 other people at the same time. You'd see their ghosts flying past you, or you flying past them. You get a notification that a friend in another country just beat your trick score. It turned a single player experience into a 24/7 global competition. It was almost the birth of like synchronized multiplayer that many games are still trying to copy today. It's kind of crazy to think that a reboot of a game was kind of reinventing how we played multiplayer games. And the critics absolutely loved it. It sat at an 82 on Metacritic, just 10 points under the first SSX game in 2000. And in its first month, it was the best-selling game in both the US and in the UK. It proved that there was still a massive hunger for arcade sports, and I feel like that hunger is still coming back in today's gaming. But in a weird way, this was also the end. Despite the success, EA shifted focus to their billion-dollar franchises like FIFA, Madden, those types of games. While we've had big games like Steep or Riders Republic since then, none of them actually captured that specific big attitude that SSX had, that perfect mix of real-world danger and the trick insanity. We still don't have that same sauce that we've had in the early 2010s with these extreme sports games. SSX 2012 was a bold experiment. It proved you could take a 2000s arcade legend powerhouse and make it feel relevant in the modern era without losing its soul whatsoever. It was definitely the last time we truly felt the big energy from EA. If you still have your 360 or PS3, fire this up. The servers are still kicking and the mountain is still waiting. This is the D-Pad, a series by Division Zero. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.